Let's address the elephant in the room. The fitness industry was built by men for men. The eat less, move more mantra, the push through the pain mentality. Calories in, calories out, oversimplification. This approach might work for a 22-year-old male bodybuilder with optimal testosterone levels and minimal life stress. But for you, it could be metabolic suicide. You're a busy mom who struggles to prioritize herself. You undereat during the week, especially protein. Then perhaps you're enjoying a bottle of wine or two on the weekend and you end up over-consuming hyper palatable foods. You've tried counting calories, you've tried counting macros, you track your steps, and you've cut out carbohydrates. Yet the scale just doesn't seem to budge until your calories are slashed to 1,300, leaving you irritable, exhausted, and foggy. Every afternoon at 2 p.m., you crash so hard you could fall asleep at your desk. You're forgetful, moody, despite doing everything right. The weight keeps creeping up, especially around your midsection. This isn't about trying harder. It's about completely changing your approach. I've walked more than 1,000 miles in your shoes. Welcome to another episode of the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query, and today we are going to be discussing insulin. At 19, I weighed 400 pounds before undergoing gastric bypass surgery and losing 180 pounds in 18 months. What should have been a success story turned into a health nightmare. When I developed low testosterone and hypothyroidism at a young age of 25 years old, my life was in shambles. My testosterone went untreated until I was 29, and it took another 4 years working and getting gaslit by medical providers to discover my hypothyroidism. I recently realized I had a viral load overload, most likely caused by Epstein-Barr, also known as mono, and pneumonia that I had had at 19 years old. After my mom's passing that same year, I got sick frequently whenever life stress was high. This continued to compound, overloading my liver and my body, likely contributing to my need for testosterone replacement, my need for thyroid replacement therapy. I understand firsthand how metabolic dysfunction can devastate your health, even when you're doing everything right. This metabolic dysfunction is what happened to a client of mine, Olivia, who came to me trying everything to lose 30 pounds she gained after her second kid. She was undereating all week, dropping as low as 1,300 calories just to see the scale move a little bit. Then crashing on the weekends with wine and whatever food she could get quickly for energy. She wasn't lazy or lacking willpower. Her cells were literally resistant to insulin, creating in a metabolic environment where fat loss was biochemically impossible. Within 3 months of addressing her insulin resistance through the intentional strength method, Olivia was eating 1,800 to 2,000 calories daily. Her energy stabilized and she lost 26 pounds through the holidays and her birthday without missing out on life. Today, we are going to show you why insulin resistance could be the hidden factor sabotaging your metabolism. How to recognize the signs of insulin resistance without expensive lab work. The key factors driving your cells to become insulin resistant. How to begin reversing insulin resistance through specific strategic changes. And I'll do this without asking you to follow some extreme diet. Eliminate all carbohydrates forever. Spend hours of doing cardio that leaves you depleted and hungry. Insulin resistance is sabotaging your metabolism. Olivia was convinced she needed to eat less and move more. Her doctor had checked her fasting glucose, which was 95 milligrams per deciliter, and technically that's normal, but far from optimal. No one ever checked her insulin levels or mentioned insulin resistance, But when we tested her, her fasting insulin was sitting at 18. Understand that Western medicine ranges are anywhere from 1 to 26, where optimal is going to be under 5. Her triglyceride to HDL ratio was 4.1, optimal under 1. No wonder she couldn't lose weight. Her body was locked in fat storage due to chronically elevated insulin. Insulin is your body's storage hormone produced when blood glucose levels rise after a meal. In a healthy metabolism, insulin efficiently moves glucose from the bloodstream into your cells to create energy. But when cells are constantly bombarded with glucose and insulin through frequent eating, high carbohydrate diets, stress, and other factors, that doesn't just include high carbohydrate diets. That includes highly palatable food diets, because oftentimes the things that most Americans classify are carbs are not even carbs. They are carbs and fat. So therefore, we see you become insulin resistant, creating vicious cycle where your pancreas pumps out more insulin to overcome resistance, leading to chronically elevated insulin levels. Since insulin is a fat storage hormone, it makes losing weight seem impossible. It also drives cravings, fatigue, brain fog, and increased fat storage in your abdomen. The tragedy is that most doctors only look at blood glucose, which can remain normal for years while insulin resistance silently progresses. By the time your glucose is elevated enough to be diagnosed with prediabetes, you've likely been insulin resistant for upwards of 5 to 10 years. If you experience energy crashes, constant hunger, brain fog, weight gain around the midsection, or you need to drop your calories extremely low to seemingly see results, insulin resistance is likely at play, regardless of what your basic labs may say. The modern diet and lifestyle perfectly create insulin resistance. Like many busy moms, Olivia, typical day was setting her up for insulin resistance without realizing it. She'd skip breakfast or grab a quick granola bar and then crash by mid-morning. Lunch was often a quick sandwich or a salad with fat-free dressing or dressing on the side because health. By afternoon, she was reaching for caffeine and something sweet to get her through that energy slump. Dinner was rushed between kids' activities. By the weekend, she was so depleted she'd open a bottle of wine, which led to pizza or pasta or quick comfort. This pattern, under-eating nutrients, overeating processed carbohydrates, irregular meal timing, inadequate protein, and alcohol consumption was the perfect storm to create insulin resistance. When we restructured eating to stabilize her blood sugar throughout the day, added in specific nutrients that improve insulin sensitivity, her energy stabilized, cravings diminished, and her body finally released that stored fat. The standard modern diet lifestyle perfectly creates insulin resistance through multiple mechanisms, irregular eating pattern, which causes blood sugar swings that strain your insulin system. Processed carbohydrates will spike glucose and insulin repeatedly throughout the day. Inadequate protein fails to trigger proper satiety and muscle maintenance signals. Low micronutrient intakes create deficiencies in nutrients critical for insulin sensitivity. Even alcohol consumption disrupts overnight fat burning and morning glucose regulations. Chronic stress can elevate cortisol, which directly increases blood glucose. Poor sleep immediately reduces insulin sensitivity by upwards of 25 to 40%. Sedentary lifestyles prevent muscle from efficiently clearing glucose from the bloodstream. This explains why the standard eat less, move more advice fails for insulin resistance individuals. If your cells can't properly respond to insulin, simply eating less and exercising more won't address the underlying metabolic dysfunction. Strategic protein timing and fiber transform insulin sensitivity. One of the biggest game changers for Olivia was restructuring her meals around protein and fiber. Instead of her granola bar for breakfast, we implemented a protein-focused first meal with at least 30 grams of protein and a fiber-rich fruit. We ensured every meal started with protein and included fiber. We strategically timed out higher carbohydrate intake around her training. Within a few weeks, her afternoon energy crashes disappeared. She no longer needed that 2 p.m. cup of coffee, and that sweet snack that had been her daily crutch was no longer necessary. Her hunger signals normalized, and she could easily go 4 to 5 hours between meals without cravings or mood swings. The metabolic flexibility was completely a new experience for her, and it happened before significant weight loss, showing that her cells were becoming more insulin sensitive. Protein and fiber are the two most powerful dietary tools for improving insulin sensitivity. Protein stimulates minimal insulin relative to satiating power. A protein-focused meal triggers glucagon, insulin's opposite, and provides amino acids that support muscle tissue, which your primary glucose disposal system. Fiber slows gastric emptying and glucose absorption, preventing sharp insulin spikes that contribute to insulin resistance when it's repeatedly beat over and over and over. It also feeds beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, which directly improve insulin sensitivity. The timing and structure of meals matter tremendously for insulin sensitivity. Starting each meal with protein before consuming carbohydrates lowers the post-meal glucose response. Front-loading that protein earlier in the day improves daily blood sugar control. Strategic carbohydrate timing around exercise takes advantage of muscle cells, enhance insulin sensitivity during this window. Allowing 4 to 5 hours between meals gives insulin levels time to return to baseline, essential for restoring sensitivity. These strategies improve insulin sensitivity without requiring extreme calorie or carbohydrate restriction, making them sustainable for real life. Muscle is your metabolic salvation. Despite being told cardio was the key to weight loss, Olivia was spending hours on the elliptical and treadmill with minimal results to show. When we shifted her focus to progressive resistance training just 3 times per week, the changes were dramatic. Within weeks, her energy improved, clothes were fitting differently, and most importantly, she was able to gradually increase her calories while continuing to drop body fat. The reason was simple. We were building her glucose disposal system. Every pound of muscle tissue she gained significantly enhanced her body's ability to remove glucose from the bloodstream, improving insulin sensitivity throughout her entire body. This created a cycle. Better insulin sensitivity led to better energy and recovery, which enabled more effective training, which built more muscle. Skeletal muscle is the primary site of glucose disposal in your body, responsible for up to 80% of your blood sugar clearance. Put simply, the more muscle mass you have, the more glucose your body can process and the more insulin sensitive you become. This is why resistance training is significantly more effective than cardio for improving insulin sensitivity and metabolic health. A single resistance training session can increase muscle cell glucose uptake by up to 40% for up to 72 hours, even without insulin present. Over time, consistent resistance training increases the number and efficiency of glucose transporters in the muscle cells, enhancing glycogen storage capacity in the muscles, improving mitochondrial function for better energy production, reducing inflammation that contributes to insulin resistance, creating a larger sink for dietary carbohydrates. For women concerned about insulin resistance, prioritizing muscle building through progressive resistance training 2 to 4 days a week is simply a non-negotiable. This doesn't mean you need to become a bodybuilder. Even modest increases in muscle mass significantly improve metabolic health. Combined with daily walking, roughly 8 to 12,000 steps to activate muscles throughout the day, This approach is far more effective for insulin sensitivity than traditional cardio prescriptions. Sleep and stress management are as important as diet and exercise. Despite improving her nutrition and training, Olivia had hit a plateau after her first month. When we dug deeper, we discovered she was only averaging 5 to 6 hours of broken sleep a night, and her stress levels were through the roof, managing work and family obligations. No wonder her body was so resistant to this change. We implemented non-negotiable sleep protocols and specific stress management techniques. Within a few weeks of prioritizing 7+ hours of quality sleep and implementing daily stress management, her fasting glucose dropped from 95 to 85 milligrams per deciliter, getting her down into optimal morning fasted ranges. And her body resumed releasing that stored fat. The improved sleep also reduced her cravings and her hunger, making nutrition plans significantly easier to follow. To clarify, Olivia created essentially her own nutrition plan within her parameters. Sleep deprivation and chronic stress are among the most powerful drivers of insulin resistance, yet they are typically overlooked in traditional weight loss advice. Just one night of poor sleep can reduce your insulin sensitivity by 25 to 40% in otherwise healthy people. It's the equivalent to eating a high sugar diet for 6 months. When you look at chronic sleep deprivation, increases in cortisol levels, which raise blood glucose, disrupt hunger hormones, and increase cravings for carbohydrates. Reduces satiety response to meals and impairs glucose tolerance and insulin signaling. It reduces energy expenditure and recovery from exercise. Similar to chronic stress, directly drives insulin resistance through multiple pathways. Elevated cortisol increases blood glucose and fatty acids. Stress hormones interfere with insulin signaling. The stress response is going to divert energy away from digestion and recovery. Chronic inflammation from stress directly impairs insulin sensitivity. For many women, improvements in sleep quality and stress management create more dramatic improvements in insulin sensitivity than diet changes. Specific protocols that activate that parasympathetic nervous system, think rest and digest, optimizing sleep quality, are essential components of reversing insulin resistance. In conclusion today, insulin resistance isn't just a blood sugar problem. It's a whole body metabolic dysfunction that affects everything from your energy and mood to your ability to lose weight and prevent chronic disease. The good news is that insulin resistance is highly responsive to the right interventions, even when it's been present for years. By addressing root causes, optimizing meal composition and timing, building metabolically active muscle tissue, prioritizing your sleep quality, and managing your stress, you can dramatically improve your insulin sensitivity and transform your health in a very, very short window of time. You do not have a willpower problem. You don't have a discipline problem. You have a metabolic problem that requires a completely different approach than what the fitness industry has been selling you. If you're tired of crashing every afternoon despite doing everything right, if you're exhausted from restricting calories only to binge on weekends, if you're sick of the scale seemingly not budging unless you eat so little you seem to be able to barely function, then it's time to look deeper at insulin resistance and the hidden factors in your struggles. Your metabolism isn't broken beyond repair, your body isn't working against you, and you don't have to accept feeling this way forever. If this episode brought you value, taught you something, and/or made you feel seen, please follow and share with a friend. Remember, we are not normal, we are intentional.